When it comes to weapons, I'm a pretty simple guy. If it can take down villains in a really cool way, I like it. So today, I wanted to share the 4 deadliest arrows from Hawkeye's quiver with you, but I should warn you, I'm gonna be pretty biased here today, guys. Because when it comes to swords, arrows, and other types of weapons that you might find at your local Renaissance festival, I don't really like them to have too many gadgets attached to them. I know, that's kind of weird, but, hear me out. So that means weapons like Hawkeye's buzzsaw arrow, which held an expandable table saw inside of its arrow tip, are going to be off of this list, and in fact on a completely other list that I'll make later on about his lamest arrows. And the same can be said for his suction cup and expanding mattress arrows. There's just something too ridiculous about a tiny arrowhead or a little broadsword or any of these other ancient weapons bursting open and a giant complex device unfurling. In my humble fanboy opinion, I'll always be more impressed by weapons made of indestructible metals or high-powered explosives, and that's what you're going to find on my list here today. Now, first up, we're going to cover Hawkeye's Andamantium Arrows. While fighting 2 villains on a snowmobile, Hawkeye made use of these Andamantium Arrows to take down both, and at one point, after shooting the first target off of the vehicle, Hawkeye made a conscious decision to avoid killing the other driver. Instead, he wanted to make a point of how skilled he was with his bow, and he took aim at the enemy's double-barreled shotgun, notched his 2 adamantium arrows, and fired both bolts at once. He lodged them inside the gun. While we didn't really get to see what made these adamantium arrows special in this scene, it's cool to know that they're in Hawkeye's quiver at any time. And since we know that the Fox X-Men movies could be part of the new MCU multiverse, especially considering how Tobey and Andrew Garfield's characters are coming into No Way Home, and since we also know that an adamantium bullet was the only thing strong enough to kill X-24, Wolverine's perfect clone in the movie Logan, then it wouldn't be a huge leap to suggest that Clint Barton's adamantium arrows would also be capable of taking down Wolvie too, which says a lot about just how deadly they are. And when we talk about rare metal arrows, it doesn't stop with adamantium. Hawkeye also has vibranium arrows. He used them in the West Coast Avengers when the team battled Ultron. While inside the engine of that villain's deadly machine, Hawkeye decided that there was only one way out. He took out his only vibranium arrow, which had been a gift from Black Panther, and he fired it directly into the engine's pipes, and eventually it got sucked deep down enough that the engine stopped outputting energy, and the team had a long enough period of time that they could escape. Probably the most consistently powerful arrows that Hawkeye wields are his explosive arrows. Now, they're your run-of-the-mill arrows, but tipped with varying charges of explosive, and personally these are among some of my favorite. Sometimes they're strong enough to lightly bust open an airplane door, and on the other end of the spectrum, sometimes they're powerful enough to even make Null Hulk, which is a version of Hulk who is powered up by an evil Asgardian hammer, dazed in a battle with the Avengers. My favorite scene of Hawkeye's explosive arrows happened when the Archer fought against a group of Super Skrulls. The Avengers were struggling to hold off the alien invaders, and Iron Fist in particular was having a rough time punching through the legion of green-skinned enemies. But with a quick volley of shots, Hawkeye was able to score hits against a series of Super Skrulls, and his explosive arrows actually reduced them to ash in seconds. It was actually a pretty gruesome scene, and you'll see it here right in the panel. Now, for the deadliest arrow, I really wanted to surprise you guys by saying something kind of stupid or ridiculous, like the grappling hook arrow that allows Hawkeye to swing around New York City like Spider-Man, or maybe even his cryo freeze arrow that was strong enough to stop the Universe 666 Thor dead in his tracks. But, when I thought about this, I had to be completely honest. And, it's kind of not that creative to say, but the strongest arrow definitely has to be his Pym particle arrows. And as you know, the Pym particles are what allow Ant-Man to grow and shrink in size. Well, Hawkeye also has those same molecules in some of his arrows, and he uses them to pretty devastating effect. In a battle with his older brother, for example, who was evil, by the way, Hawkeye hit himself with a Pym particle arrow and grew to giant man size. He was able to lift and reset a falling Ferris wheel, which is a display of super strength usually reserved for guys, like Wonder Man or Vision or even Thor, but Hawkeye was able to do that in this particular fight against Trickshot. Now, if Hawkeye were to use that arrow for deadlier goals, he would definitely be one of the toughest heroes for any villain, including his evil brother to best. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you getting a kick out of these, make sure you let me know, and if you have a topic you want me to cover, drop a comment below and I'll definitely cover it. Catch you next time.